Stardate 5221.3, September 8th, 1973, the first episode of Star Trek the Animated Series. This is Trek Epidemic. I'm your host, Buck Hollywood LeDuc, joined as always by Dr. Jay Hardner. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Always nice to talk about Star Trek on a Saturday. It's one of my favorite activities.
Yes. That's what Saturdays are for, really.
Absolutely. That's what Saturdays were invented for. By God, was to talk about Star Trek. Today on the show, we're talking about the animated series. The first time we've dove into that on this show, and in general, really, I've never seen any of this before. So,
Me neither. This was my first time getting the pleasure to watch some of that.
yeah, just crazy 70s animation and whatnot. Before we get into that, let's talk a little bit of Star Trek Discovery News, the new TV show, which I have a bad feeling about because it keeps getting pushed back, first of all. It's not even really on CBS. It's on their streaming service.
Oh no, that's not going to do well immediately. If something's only on like a weird affiliate,
yeah.
It's just
so basically, what they've done is they've sold it to Netflix outside of the U.S. and Canada.
Okay.
So that's where it's going to be everywhere else. For us, we have to watch it on actual CTV, and for America, they get to watch it on a streaming service. So, I mean, everyone's going to pirate it in North America. So,
yeah. And then they're going to say, "Oh, the viewership isn't there, so we can't make any more of it," and then it's going to fail. No matter how good it is. Like, it could be complete shit and deserve to fail, but even if it's like the best thing ever, they're not going to see the viewership numbers because it's going to be on locked into some stupid streaming service.
Yeah, exactly. So it was supposed to come out in May. It's been pushed back indefinitely. Now they are working on it though, and they have started shooting it. And we now have a captain. If you're familiar with Jason Isaacs, he played the in Harry Potter, what's that, Malfoy's father, Lucius Malfoy.
Oh yeah,
that guy. He's going to be the captain, but this show doesn't actually revolve around the captain so much as the previous ones have. This will be focusing on a lieutenant, the black girl from Walking Dead.
Oh man, this is gonna be one of those shows where like the captain doesn't necessarily support her, and she's got to go rogue and do her own thing to make sure that everything always works out. But he still doesn't trust her at the end of the day. So the next episode, the same thing can happen.
Yeah, it's gonna be the corrupt captain, or something shady about him, and then there's like the crew that undermines him. You know, it's gonna be that.
I'd love for like an underbelly, a seedy underbelly Star Trek movie. Because it's supposed to be like a utopian society, but I mean, Kirk got his illegal Romulan ale somewhere.
Yeah, like a Firefly type, like
yeah,
like some sort of rebel unit moving through the
trying to bring down the fascist regime of the Space Federation.
See, now why aren't they tapping us to write the new Star Trek series? We got ideas. Listen up, Hollywood. Listen up to this podcast, all right? Listen up to this Star Trek podcast, one of 1,000 Star Trek podcasts. Because the thing about Star Trek is there's 900 episodes. So you can literally talk about whatever and not overlap with any of the other Star Trek podcasts.
It's true.
So today, what are we talking about?
The animated series episode 1.
Yeah, I believe it's called Beyond the Farthest Star or something along those lines.
Something along those lines.
Just like a nonsense title that doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, especially because they aren't beyond the farthest star in this specific episode. I think it's supposed to like maybe talk about their journey is to go beyond the farthest star or whatever. I don't know. I don't really understand why they chose that as a name.
Possibly. So this episode. Well, let's talk about the animation first because it's wild, dude.
This is
70s. This is like 70s animation.
I'm pretty sure there are some scenes straight out of Scooby-Doo. Like the running posture is one of my favorite things ever. And there's like that part where they're in the background and they're just shadows running across the background, so they don't have to animate the full characters. And
Yeah.
clearly there was no budget for extras because as opposed to regular Star Trek, which is actually I was surprised at how obvious and noticeable it was because regular Star Trek, there's so many people on the bridge, there's people walking down
Yeah.
all of the halls, there's this bunch of people in engineering, there's always like 2 people in the transporter bay. There's like 7 people on the Enterprise right now.
It's empty. And there's like my favorite though is that guy that's sitting beside Sulu, and it's like some sort of orange monster man. It's like,
He
yo,
never got to talk.
who is he, and what does he do?
My favorite guy was Mr. Kyle, the guy who was operating the transponder bay after they'd gone like aboard,
Did he have a
and he is the dude
mustache or
with the
something?
mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a great mustache, and he actually had a speaking line.
Apparently, he had that was a character in the actual show, but like he never actually talked or anything.
Okay, Mr. Kyle.
Mr. Guy.
Mr. Kyle's just a great name. I love the name Mr. Kyle.
Yeah, but like I couldn't look away from the animation. It's so bizarrely 70s and like colorful when it shouldn't be colorful, and then like simple where it shouldn't be simple.
Man, there's like the part where they go onto the um alien spaceship and they're in like this room and then all of a sudden alarms start going off and lights start flashing and fucking crazy alien faces are appearing on screens and there's like portal shit. That was like the biggest acid trip thing
Oh,
ever.
dude,
Like
it's
that
such
would
an
have made me incredibly
it's just an
uncomfortable.
acid show. So basically, in this episode, they find like an organic spaceship that's like floating around, and they think it's dead. So they go explore it. And now I did like this kind of stuff because Gene Roddenberry, like he really liked making this show, and he said because you can draw like spaceships so much easier than you could create special effects spaceships at the time. So like
Yeah.
his vision for like a weird organic fucking like that's the kind of spaceship I saw when I was on shrooms. Like that's a fucking shrooms spaceship.
Yeah, because they get like pulled into the orbit of this dead star, which just looks like a moon for some reason. I don't really think that's how that works. But anyways, they get pulled into the orbit of a dead star. Maybe it's sci-fi. It can be whatever. And it's got like
But yeah,
super
like
gravity, so
a
they're
dead star
trapped.
would just like be nothing, right? After because it's just gas.
I mean,
And
there's a lot of things that can happen. It can like implode on itself and become a black hole, or it can like just explode and dissipate. But I don't think it can become a hard earthen core with
yeah,
super
there's no
gravity.
core. There's no core in a star. That's what I mean. Like, because it looked like the idea I think was that it was the core of a star or something, and then the fire part burned off. But
Yeah,
that's not
and it had like
exactly how
super
it worked.
gravity, so it pulled them in. And then they found this other spaceship, which was just like blown to pieces, and they went to go and investigate it.
And it's like it's a real wild looking thing. It's like a plant type spaceship, which are my favorite types of spaceships is organic, just like
Yeah,
to like gangly tentacles of organic shit. I don't know, but it is beautiful, and I
they
really
go
like
over
the
to it, and
animation.
they're immediately like, "Oh, there's hexagonal structures like insect hives on Earth, like the bees make." Is what Spock says, who's not from Earth, but I guess is big on bees. And the bees probably wouldn't have survived that day and age, but you know, whatever, alternate timeline. Um, and then there's something else where it's like, oh, this metal isn't folded or melted. It's weaved out of filaments. I was like, and then Kirk's like a spider's web. I was like, I wonder if the aliens are insect based, maybe.
Yeah, it's fucking bizarre, man. The voice acting is so hilarious too because like it's like clearly none of it was recorded at the same time. And
Yeah,
like some people are better at the voice acting than others. It's it's really funny and stilted, but I do enjoy it. I did notice like the animations like they're so simple, so like they got Bones completely cracked with like the bags under his eyes and everything. I mean, Spock didn't really look like Leonard Nimoy besides having the eyebrows.
yeah.
Uh, and then like Kirk, he's just a white dude, so he's hard to animate. There's no like he has no defining feature.
Hmm.
But I mean, some of the other ones looked pretty good. Like Aurora looked all right, even though it was just a brown face with two black dots as eyes.
Oh man. Um. Anyways, they go into the spaceship and they find like an energy collecting device that's turning the ship back on. And then they go into this one room, which Spock opens by shooting a door panel. I don't know how he knew it would work, but he just did. And they go in there and they get locked inside, and then all of a sudden, none of the energy is working. So like their guns and stuff aren't working.
Uh huh.
And then the acid trip starts, and there's this voice that's talking in slow motion, which Spock says he can decipher, which he goes over to a computer and starts typing, which literally just shows a camera with Spock's hand above a keyboard, and then it's just hovering there, and then it cuts away to something, and it cuts back and his hand's hovering, and it moves lower down and hovers over a different part of the keyboard because that was their typing animation. But he's like, I can translate it, and that literally just ends up speeds up the message, because that's how they did it. Obviously, they didn't have the budget for the dude who made the Klingon fucking language to do these random insect aliens that died 300 million years ago.
Yeah, it's wild, dude. And that's like it gets crazier too. Like,
oh yeah,
because they find out like the ship like it absorbs knowledge or something.
Basically what happened is there was like this entity that was on the dead star, and it got into these insect ship, and then they found it was evil, and they decided to destroy their ship instead of letting it escape and infect other ships, because it's like this weird space ghost parasite thing that infects starships.
Yeah, they like to do the space ghost type shit.
Yeah. It's basically like a space poltergeist that can infect ships, and then somehow Spock knew it would replicate by meiosis and separate into more ships and infect all technology and planets. So they were debating having to blow up the Enterprise to stop it.
And now there's a really great scene towards the end here when the thing gets into their ship. And Kirk is like, I know how to fix this. And he just starts smashing away on his fucking keypad. And then it starts zapping him. And it's like, obey. Obey. And he's like, nah, bitch. We're taking this thing down. And he like, what does he try and do? Like, crash it?
So what he does is he gets Spock to calculate the slingshot trajectory so that they can get out of the gravitational pull of the dead star. But the creepy the space ghost doesn't know what's happening. So Kirk has it so that it looks like it's going to crash directly into the planet, and then at the last second, after the space ghost has fled the ship in panic because it'll apparently die, and it like somehow infects the dead star thing. I don't know. Kirk hits light speed after they get rid of the space ghost and they escape, and you just hear the sad space ghost be like, "I'm so lonely, please no," and then they just leave him in space alone forever.
It's fucking bananas. Like it's one of those things where it's like, yo, this is only 22 minutes long, and some of the most insane shit of all time happens in this episode.
Well, and the wild thing is that's just how they leave it, with like that really sad scene, and then it just cuts out, and Kirk's like, we're gonna go keep exploring stars. Like there's no talk about like, what that was, or like what they need to do about it. Or like maybe making sure nobody else goes to that planet.
Should we blow up this thing while we're here? Nah, don't got enough missiles, I guess. Da na 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 na. It's so open-ended and fucking silly, and like
it seems like they just ran out of time on the episode.
Well, it is a pilot episode technically, but it doesn't introduce anything or explain anything, and it is written by the same dude who wrote the pilot of the Star Trek the original series. And Gene Roddenberry's thought was, oh, you wrote the pilot for the original Star Trek, and that got on the air, so why don't you write the pilot for this? And so he did, and it has like, if you haven't, I guess Star Trek never really explains their characters that well at the beginning either, but like, and you just grow to love them because of their quirks and shit. But like, this explains nothing about this show. Like, you're just diving into a weird like space world where these dudes are getting caught up by a fucking obey ghost.
Oh yeah, like if you hadn't seen the original series, none of that would have made any sense.
Because it barely makes sense to me, and I've seen all those episodes. Yeah, it's pretty, like the animation is like my favorite part about it, because it is very specific looking.
My favorite thing is every time it cuts to the bridge and no one knows how to sit in a chair. It looks like they're always like almost falling out of their chairs, because there's one single still shot. So they cut to the bridge. It shows everyone in their chairs on the bridge, and everyone's like half leaning out of their chairs like they are when the ship's getting like shot or shaken in the original series. But nothing's ever happening when that's happening. So it's just
everybody, there's no jumping over chairs or anything. Like, the animation, it's so crude. But I think that's why it's charming in a lot of ways.
Well, yeah. I mean, they definitely didn't seem to have the budget for that. Like, they didn't even have the budget for Chekhov. Chekhov got cut because he wasn't in the budget.
Yeah, that's right. So Chekhov is not in this. And that's because they can afford him. Is that the reason?
Yeah, they just didn't have the budget for the full original cast, and Chekhov was apparently the one who didn't make it.
Rest in peace, Chekhov. We love Chekhov. It is interesting they couldn't throw him a bone though, because I mean, like Sulu was in this maybe. Like I think I saw him, but I don't know if he spoke.
Yeah,
It's like, couldn't we just like, why does there have to be a giant orange alien?
probably because
in
giant
Chekhov?
orange aliens are cheaper.
Fucking yeah, that's. I really want to hear the giant orange alien talk. I don't know if he speaks at all in this series, but I really want to hear what that would be like.
Yeah, me too. I hope it's just some dude's like cousin, just talks totally normal. He's new to the job.
But yeah, this is one of those series where I feel like the minor characters are going to shine, like not just like but like random crew that they
Yeah,
want to add to the show. So like Mr. Kyle, for example.
Mr. Kyle.
Yeah, now he shines, and he is a beautiful man with a mustache. And in the TV show, they got about 1,000 Mr. Kyle, so they don't need him. But in this show, they have 8 characters.
I love um I love how like they have to have a distinguishing feature on him so they don't think he's just Kirk or Scotty. He's wearing, I guess he might get confused with Scotty because he's got like grayish hair and red shirt, so they have to
Yeah.
just give him the biggest mustache.
Yeah, it's fantastic stuff. Um, Now compared to like an actual episode, it's clear they're like, because like this could have easily been like a 40-minute episode, I'm sure. Like that,
Hmm.
if this was original series, like, because I know they wrote specific scripts for this, but I'm sure they lifted a lot of ideas from the original series. So it's interesting that uh, it doesn't feel condensed so much, but like it feels like it could be extended.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like they could have had a little bit, a few more scenes there, like a little bit of a scene where they did the denouement and talked about what the fuck just happened. Then again, maybe they don't really want to get too much into the actually thinking about what just happened.
Sometimes you don't want to get into the science of crazy shit, because we know how that works. Then you have a looper, and it's
Yeah.
like too much explanation on the science that doesn't need to be there.
Also, at the end of the day, it still makes no goddamn sense. So you're not helping anyone.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I don't really have anything else about the episode, but if you want to talk about Star Trek for a bit, to
Sure.
fill out another 5 or 10 minutes of this podcast.
We gotta stretch it. We gotta stretch it out.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with these 20-minute episodes. Like maybe we could do 2 in the future or something. I don't know. But again, like I don't feel like this podcast needs to be like an hour and a half long like the other podcast I do. Because we're only talking about one subject, right?
Yes.
But yeah, so I am interested in the new Star Trek series. I don't think it's going to be good, especially with all these delays and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see it. I'm not gonna count it out yet, but
It was
it's
looking
not
really
in
good
a
at the
great
beginning
place.
when Brian Fuller of Hannibal fame was on the helm, and he dropped out, and then now it's just like it's going to hell, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, hopefully we can get something interesting at least. And yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be really interesting because it's hard to assume what kind of take they're gonna give to it. Because obviously, it's a bit different from series that have come in the past, and each Star Trek kind of has to do its own thing. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if they can sort of do something unique, or if they're just going to try and play off of the like just the brand and get a quick cash grab out of her.
Yeah, true. It doesn't seem very thought out. Well, let's do some. Let's just talk about some sci-fi for a bit. Have you did you see the news screenshots for Thor Ragnarok?
Yes, yes, that looks amazing.
Dude, our boy Taika Waititi of Flight of the Conchords fame, he's directing this one, and he seems like a guy that you can't really tame. when it comes to Marvel. Like there's dudes like the Russo brothers making the Captain America movies, and those guys can be bought for a price. And then you've got James Gunn on the Guardians of the Galaxy, and now you're bringing in Taika Waititi. That dude's a wild man. He's clearly just making whatever the fuck he wants out there.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to that, I think they knew that when they went in. Like, they wanted him for his style, so I don't think they were going to restrict him, which is really cool of Marvel to sort of go for something that's very different. And I think it could easily be one of the best Marvel movies that out there if it ends up working, which it
I,
probably
I,
will.
I agree with that because like you see like these Civil War, like that one's clearly a studio tampered with. That and Ultron too. Like those ones are like they're watchable, but they're not like rave reviewed. Like Guardians of the Galaxy is probably the best one out of all those Marvel movies, and that was because they just let James Gunn do whatever the fuck he wants. And I think they realized that more than what like because that's what DC was trying to do. They're like, our DC universe is going to be director driven movies, and they're like, okay, we're gonna let fucking Zack Snyder make the Batman Superman movie, and then all of a sudden they had to tamper with it, right? Fucking cut out half an hour. Terrible.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, we're gonna have David Ayer in here. We're gonna let him make Suicide Squad. We're gonna let him do it his way. And then they tampered with it, cut out half an hour, and it's fucking terrible. But that's just because that's a bad movie. It's not because of what they they tampered. They actually tried to fix it, which, yeah. But they say they want to make like a director driven franchise to be different from the Marvel like studio solidified movies, right? But
Well, I think that's one of the things is they've heard so much from people. Like, people are bored of the standard Marvel fare and like
Yeah.
the 1,000 origin stories and the relatively repetitive storylines. So I think getting different directors in to give sort of their own takes on a lot of these characters, because now we know all these characters, so let's just see what they can do in all these crazy situations and doing different things and getting different styles on them. So having a nice lighthearted Marvel movie, like, I can't remember really the last one that was that way. Probably Guardians of the Galaxy, but even that got a bit heavy
Maybe
at times. So
Ant-Man.
interesting. Yeah, AntMan was pretty good, pretty lighthearted in that sense, and I think that was one of the things that at least made me enjoy it.
I actually liked that one a lot. Most people like weren't on board with Ant-Man, but I thought it was fun because it was the same formula, like fighting basically a clone of himself that was evil.
Yeah.
But it was like it was like a lighter, low stakes kind of like just fun.
Mhm.
Because that is the problem with Marvel though. It is always just them fighting a version of themselves that's bad. Like
Yes.
for all the Iron Man movies were that basically.
I think it's largely because, of course, that's their main comic book villain, and the reason that's their main comic book villain is how do you have a character who has a fair fight? Because, like, at the end of the day, you could say, like, how do you have someone who has a fair fight with Ant-Man? Well, he has the same powers as Ant-Man, so then it's just he wins through his own like ingenuity and cleverness, and not just what abilities he has.
Yeah, that's
Because
true.
if you look at like if you made Captain America fight Thor directly or something like that, or something like that, like he obviously has to fight evil Captain America so that it's a fair fight more
Yeah,
so.
not
However, I
Nazi.
know that. Yeah, exactly. One thing I did not know is Taika Waititi was in the Green Lantern movie.
Was he? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't
played
remember
Thomas
much about that, to be
Kalmaku.
honest.
Oh, it was real bad.
I do remember it was bad, but I don't remember much about it.
Yeah, he played Thomas Kalmaku in the 2011 superhero film Green Lantern.
Interesting. So yeah, the Taika Waititi Ragnarok movie looks really wild because he's like, I'm gonna make this an 80s movie. And it's like, okay, what do you mean by that? And there's like neon everywhere. Jeff Goldblum's in fucking pink and blue. You're like, what the fuck is this movie? It looks so wild. And they cut Thor's hair for some reason. Love it, by the way, but weird.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
It looks pretty dope. It looks like a classic sci-fi to me, like a classic wild sci-fi.
Yeah, which I mean, and it also looks like a lot more lighthearted because there's actually color in it. I hate the grim, dark movies we have these days where it's like your color palette is only grayscale.
Yeah. It is interesting that DC went the route where it's like Yeah, we're making superhero movies that are 0% fun.
Yeah,
And it's like, okay, I guess we could do that, but I'd rather
only
there
the
be at
serious
least
ones.
just like give me some jokes. Like I need
Yeah,
something. You gotta give me something. Like even The Dark Knight had jokes in it.
yeah, which I think like they're really hoping that with the Justice League, I don't know, maybe Flash is gonna be funny or something. Maybe we'll get 1 out of 6.
I think
That's got a
Cyborg maybe. Cyborg seems
comedic
like he would
relief.
have jokes.
Yeah, I don't know. I still haven't really seen this Batman versus Superman, so I
Oh,
don't really
it's really
know.
bad, dude. Um,
Yeah,
that they are like I'm interested because the next two that they're making might be okay. There's the Wonder Woman and Aquaman, which I think both might be okay, but I don't know.
yeah,
We'll have to see. I am curious about the Aquaman because it's directed by the director of uh, Fast and Furious, James Wan,
yeah.
or yeah, I think it's James
And we
Wan
got
because
we got
Justin.
Khal Drogo taking the lead.
Yeah, exactly. That one might be fun if they fuck with it, like big action sequences and stuff like that. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
Superhero movies, man. I'm kind of burnt out. I'll be honest.
there's a lot, but I mean, it's still making tons of money. Still making tons of money.
That's true. I finally did see Doctor Strange. I think it's okay, but
Yes,
only because of the visuals. Like it's
I
really
agree.
low stakes in my opinion. Like it's like nothing really happens in it, especially for like the first hour.
Well, like the character there's no progression with the character. Like he's the same guy through pretty much the entire movie. You can say his like arrogance is toned down a little bit, but not that much.
Yeah,
Not that much.
that's tough when when you got Benedict Cumberbatch doing like an American accent that's like real spotty. It's like, yeah, that's real spotty, bro.
Yeah.
Not as bad as Sam Worthington in Terminator Salvation, but it is spotty.
That is the worst example of consistent accent I've ever seen. And I don't understand how nobody just like said like, "Hey, let's maybe do a take where you're not Australian."
Or just make him Australian. Like it
Yeah,
doesn't
that
matter.
would have been fine. That would have been fine, but he had to be American for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know. Fuck Sam Worthington. He's living off his Avatar money, waiting for Avatar 2, but James Cameron just keeps pushing it back. Did you
Is there
see
supposed to be
recently?
like 5 of those goddamn movies or something?
Well, he wrote four more,
Jesus.
and they were going to start production for Avatar 2 this year, and James because for a release in 2018, and then I saw a press release yesterday from James Cameron, and he's like, yeah, there's no way we're going to make 2018, 2019 at the earliest.
Jesus,
What?
I don't want another Avatar movie. I didn't want the first Avatar movie.
What do you mean 2019 at the earliest? Is this he's never going to make it? Like,
Yeah. Especially, I mean, one of the issues with the first Avatar is like people loved it a lot because of the visual effects. I mean, you can't say the story was very original or entertaining. It was pretty dry,
yeah.
but the visual effects were pretty good. And I mean, if he keeps pushing it back, he's either got to be pushing it back because he's got technical stuff that's he's developing specifically for this movie, or
Yeah.
I think he might have trouble if he goes for the exact same formula of we have a really cool movie with very poor story because we're going to end up seeing like we've got
Well,
other visual effects on par with it at this
that is
point.
interesting because I don't think like there is much more space to improve in visuals. Like I think we've almost ceilinged it at
Yeah,
this point, which is
yeah. Well, and I
crazy
mean
to
that was
think
also
about
back when
because
like 3D was really huge because it
Mhm.
was just coming back, and he made really good use of it. But now it's just in everything. So I don't know what he's going to do to make
But maybe there is though, because like
Avatar
if you
2.
think about like the even the early 2000s, like 2005, that's like the worst visuals ever. Like it was that transition period from
Yeah,
practical and like shitty 90s, and then 2000s was bad. It got good in the last 5 years, but could it go further? I don't know. Probably, but I don't see it improving that much anymore. Like you hit the ceiling
yeah. I
at
mean
some
things
point,
can
right?
continue to improve, but will it be incredibly noticeable? Is the thing. Like, do you really take a huge notice between like a 2K and a 4K resolution or things like that? As you increase, you have to do so much more to get significant returns, or
Right.
like a difference between 60 frames per second and 120 frames per second, and just things like that. As you reach a point where to improve, you need to improve by a whole bunch to make it still be noticeable.
Well, for a long time, like there's like two things that we couldn't do, and like I think about this all the time. Is the I Am Legend like lions walking through there, and it's like, oh, those don't look like lions because their fur doesn't move. Hair is really hard to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I saw the Jungle Book, and it's like, oh, okay, we figured out animals, so that's
Yeah.
one down. And then it's really hard to animate people, basically their skin to make it look realistic.
Yeah,
Uh,
we got the pores.
yeah, and then you get the new Star Wars, and you're like, okay, we've got people down. So now
Yeah.
it's like, how much are we gonna improve? We'll make those two things. We'll make animals' hair and pores look a little better, but like we're almost at the point where we're peaking. I don't know if in 10 years, like I don't think that Star Wars perfected it, but I think it's as
Mm-hmm.
close as we've ever gotten before. It's not like The Rock in The Mummy Returns, but like
Yes.
it is noticeable that he's not real.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. He's a kind of a yeah. Well, yeah. So there's definitely room for improvement, but it'll be interesting to see. And I mean, James Cameron had kind of an advantage on that with Avatar because he was animating things that weren't people.
Yeah.
So when you've got that baseline of what you're looking at, it's hard to do it. Like you can animate anything, and if that's what it already looks like, then you just assume, okay, that's what that looks like. So you did a perfect job of that because that's what it is, because you
Right.
made it up and it can look however you want. But because we know what people look like, it's much harder to animate a really good human face and try and put it right next to another human being like they
Yeah,
did.
that is the tough part. Hey,
Yeah, because
when
then
you're
you got direct comparison. You're like, no, that's different. That's wrong. Even if you had them in like standalone shots, it might have been better. But yeah,
well, like when like General Tarkin, for example, in that Star Wars movie, when you're looking at the reflection, you're like, oh, that's a guy, and then as soon as it like goes to like the full shot, which is a bold move by Disney, they just wanted to show off that they could do it,
yeah.
basically. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, that is a like my dad couldn't
Mhm.
notice, but that's because he's a dad. So it's like he's like, oh, what do you mean that was a computer generated person? I thought that was a guy. It's like, yeah, okay, so it is tricking people, but like, yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see with Avatar 2 if it's actually got anything that can make it get the acclaim that Avatar 1 had.
Hmm. And I people have cooled off on Avatar now that they've actually seen it on DVD.
Well, I mean,
Like,
if you watched it a second time, that means you've watched 6 hours of Avatar, which is way too much. So I think like
is that
everyone's
3 hours long?
oh, it's got to be at least near that. It's so long and nothing happens. It just blows my mind, man.
Yeah, there's like I don't remember much about it because I haven't seen it since theaters, but there is like I remember there being like a dead period in the middle. I'm like, what the fuck is
It's
going
like
on?
the entire movie. Oh, it's just, it's so. I cannot watch. I would not watch that movie again. I don't think there's not really
You don't
much.
got time for that.
No, I've got a life to live. It's 161 minutes, so it's 2 hours and 41 minutes, which is
Yeah, that's
long
long
for
as
me.
fuck. That's
Like
that's I
if
could
your
watch
movie's
Lord of the
gonna
Rings
be
twice in that.
if your movie's gonna be that long, then it's got to feel it. Like I gotta be ready to sit. Like because sitting down for 2 hours and 41 minutes, it's just gotta be. This has got to be something to sit down for. There's got to be something
Yeah,
to sit down for
if
that long for.
hitting a Scorsese movie, what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah.
That's the thing about Scorsese is he doesn't make films, he makes evening commitments, bitch. And you're locked in. You're locked in.
But I mean, if the movie's good enough, then you don't even notice the time frame. That one, Avatar, just felt like it was dragging on and on and on. It's like this could have been resolved much
Yeah.
earlier.
That's the James Cameron thing though. It's the same way for Titanic. Like it doesn't need to be that
Oh
long.
yeah.
Anyway, so I
Just
think
start at the part where the boat hits the iceberg.
yeah, start at the good shit, right? Because then like
I want to see a man hit a propeller, and then I
it's a
want to see the.
it's a 2 VHS tape. You can start at the second tape, and that's a good movie.
Oh man, I feel
All
like
right,
James
well
Cameron
that's
doesn't even make movies for the movie. He just makes it for things around the movie. Like he probably just made Avatar for the technology, and I've
yeah,
heard he
I
made
agree.
Titanic just so that he could go and do a fucking scuba dive around the wreck.
There's that, and but then there's like, tra- or uh, with Terminator 2 though, where it's like an anomaly. Like that actually is a good movie, but I guess he was fucking around with technology a lot in that movie too, so could be. Cuz Terminator 2 is basically the first one with a bigger budget. And I think that's why it's good. So it's what he envisioned, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I think that's good for the Trek Epidemic, episode 4, talking about the animated series. So next time we'll be back with Star Trek movie 3, The Search for Spock.
Yes.
Excited to talk about that one. That's a good one.